Okay, we'll call the meeting, what is today? August 12th, 2024, Cambridge City Town Council to order, and we'll start by standing. Let's do a pledge of allegiance, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sherry, would you like to take the roll, please?
Sure. Jim McLean.
Present.
Mike Amick. Here. Debbie McGinley. Here. Gary Cole.
Present.
Jim King.
Here. Then we had a chance to review the minutes.
Make a motion we accept the minutes.
There's two. One was for July 8th and one's for July 23rd. So
Make a
maybe-
motion we accept July 8th.
Second.
Have a motion second to accept the minutes from July 8th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Make a motion we accept July 23rd.
Second that as well.
Have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the meeting of July 23rd. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
So you have a front and back.
And then the claims. You get a chance to review those, everyone?
Make a motion we accept the claims.
Second.
Have a motion and accept, a second to accept the claims for this month. All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. And then finally, the financials.
Financials.
Make a motion we accept the financials.
I'll second that too.
Okay.
Have a motion and a
Make it
second to approve the financials for this month. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. All right, before we get started, I just want to say we have a big crowd here tonight. We have a full agenda, so we'll try to get through everything as expeditiously as possible. Try to keep it as brief as you can, but we do want to hear what you have to say, so don't think that we're cutting that off. So, moving on, for a public hearing, what we have is the opening of bids for the performance venue, and we got one bid. So we'll open that. We taped it shut. It is from Morphe Construction out of Indianapolis. And for the full bid proposal, correct me if I'm wrong, Cecil, but I think they do a full proposal and then
There should be, it's called bid form supplements, which will list the base bid, and then there should be 3 alternates.
okay, so there's a base bid.
Yep.
Do we need to read all those, Bob, tonight?
I would.
All right. So the base bid is $846,000. Alternate number 1, $200,000. And seating area is $60,000. Is that the 3, Cecil?
Yes.
You say 60? 60?
60. 60.
60.
And I think at this time we just take
Take
it
that under advisement.
advisement, and I think the idea is to make a decision by the next meeting.
2 minutes.
Sherry, I'm beginning with you.
When will we discuss that? The next meeting?
Yeah, well, we'll review it,
Right.
We'll send it out. It'll be here for everybody to review.
And then the process will be
Yeah.
September?
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious. You mentioned it last time.
Okay, that's it for that. Next up, we have recognition of a employee that's retiring.
Yeah.
One
I
is
want her to come.
taking her place.
And I want you guys to be introduced to Carrie, who's taken. So Glendora, stand up. She's been here, she's gonna retire on August 30th, and it'll be her 30 years here. She's been such a dear friend and my right hand, and I'll miss you.
I'll miss everybody.
Jingles will miss you
But you're
too.
right. But you're gonna be in good hands.
Yep, that's right. So Karine, if you'll stand up, she's replacing Glendora, and she started June 24th. We're real excited that she's decided to accept the job, and a lot to learn in there.
Yeah, she's a tough act to follow.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
you.
You guys can leave if you want to. You don't have to stay. You don't have to stay. Thank you.
Unless you want to.
Unless you want to.
They're still leaving. They didn't want to.
They didn't want to.
All right, so moving on to the guests, let's get going. And again, we'll go through as quickly as we can with taking care of that as best we can. Starting with Chad Whistler with a blight complaint on his block.
I do, Jim, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can. I got 3 properties and a vehicle. I spoke to you about this on the phone like 2 years ago. The first one would be 26 East Front. That's the property just west of me. It's not been maintained for years. Right now, the southeast corner, and it doesn't sound like much at first, but it's probably shin high to places it's chest high, poison ivy. There's 4 raccoons living in that property. There has been for several years. My biggest complaint with the raccoons is, you know, they set my security system off 12 times a night. They defecate on my roof. They defecate in flowers. I spoke to the property owner about it, and he said, "Yep, we'll look into that." Well, it didn't get looked into, so that's why I'm here. It's so bad. Matter of fact, I think Sherry had even mentioned to me once, there's a groundhog that lives under the shed in the back, and he started eating my deck. There's still remnants of a tree. Half of a tree fell on my property in the storm in July, and that tree's, I don't know, it looks dangerous to me. My attorney says that it's definitely a hazard. There's old mattress, box springs, there's trash, there's an open window on the east side of that property. Matter of fact, if anybody is, it's ridiculously funny, but it's not. I have photos of the raccoons looking at me out of that window of that house.
Okay.
There's no electricity at that property. When that tree fell, the power line, the service came in through my backyard. Well, when the tree fell, it took down the line. Well, Duke that evening wanted to try to disconnect the power to the property, fear fire, and because of all that undergrowth, the trees and the poison ivy and everything, he couldn't even get to the house to even disconnect the power. So he said, well, I'm just gonna cut it at the line and drop it. He goes, if they want to hook back up, they'll just have to pay to hook it up. Well, unbeknownst to him, once daylight came the next day, the meter base has been completely ripped off the house and it's laying in a pile of poison ivy.
Okay.
And it's been there for a month. That's pretty much 26. It's,
Okay, so before you move on from that, Ken, I don't think that's on our list currently, correct? Okay, so you can take a look at that one?
Yep, got the address wrote down.
and then 9 East Front Street, the business, I mean, there's been decades basically of flotsam in that front property, which conjoins with basically with 11 East Front. And my biggest complaint there, and I've refrained from calling the police every morning between 5 and 6 a.m., is getting woken up by the chickens. And
There's a town ordinance.
I assumed that there was still an ordinance, but I knew that the town solicitor, Bob, would have to, you know, obviously maybe look that up. But yeah,
There is.
typically between 5 and 6 a.m. they start in, and then it just goes and goes and goes. And then there's the pig. So by noon, you gotta smell this pig that's at 11. You know, if you want pigs, chickens, groundhogs out in the yard, whatever, move to the county.
This is 2.5 blocks from the city building. My fourth complaint, there's a vehicle parked across the street from 11. I know Richard's office was there. I think somebody was dealing with it a week or so ago. But the vehicle was still not operational. It's a red Jeep. It's got Tennessee plates on it. There's a stack of 2x4s under the suspension in the back to make it appear that the tire is not flat. And the person, I'm assuming the owner of that, has had residency at 11 East Front for approximately at least 8 years. And Indiana code, as Richard can tell you, you move to Indiana, you have 60 days to plate that vehicle in Indiana. You have to get a 1014 form with the B&B and get it plated. It's not even got legal registration on it. It's sat there so long that the mildew and the lichens on it looks like a ship that's been in Boston Harbor for about 10 years.
I noticed it as well.
So clearly it's not been moved. Matter of fact, I pulled up just for the heck of it. Google shows that vehicle sitting there in 2016, and it also shows a street view of that vehicle sitting there in April of 2020, with the 2x4 still under the suspension. So it's been like that for years.
Been to it. That's terrible. I know which one you're talking about.
It's, the whole street, it turns into a debacle at times. 2 weeks ago, I had to call Richard. Richard got a hold of Jeff, and they had to put out a fire. He had smoked up, I don't know, 3 or 4 blocks of Front Street to Chestnut, and he was dropping ash all over our cars in the backyard. And, you know, God bless him, because Jeff did get him to finally put it out, and he didn't have any more issues with it. But it just goes on and on and on and on. But like I said, the 26 property, I'll cut it short and I'll shut up about it, but we can't even use our backyard after dusk. You can hear the raccoons start coming out of that house, and then my wife's like, well, it's time to go in the house.
So, Ken, I don't think 9 and 11 are on our list either, are they?
No, they're not.
Does somebody live in 9 and 11?
9 is Smith's Radiator, and 11 is Anthony Smith's home.
Okay,
26 is owned by Jack and Tony Smith both.
okay.
They've had it for 3 years and haven't done a thing with it, other than let the poison ivy grow and the raccoons have a place to live.
Yeah, it's all basically the same ownership down through there, isn't it?
Except for mine, and like I said, I've
Maybe
kind
not
of,
ones-
the
the
property
ones you're
we're talking
talking
about.
right, I've just kind of stifled it over the last 25 years, and then this year, with their trees being neglected, according to my attorney, I ended up having a car totaled, and then I suffered about $22,000 in damages in total, so I've got 22,000 reasons to be here every month. So, I've had my say.
I think you have a legitimate
I do too.
complaint.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah.
No, and anybody that would like to, you know, I have all kinds of photographs. You have to do those things, and I didn't bring those, and I mean, these are things that Ken and some of them will have to just look at.
We'll get Ken down there and look and start the process. We have a whole list. These 3 pages are homes that are in process right now. So we'll add those to the list. And
Well, I
we'll
know
start
that
following
26 is clearly inhabitable, because when you get on the roof to have to clean the raccoon crap off of it, you can see through that window, there's not even a floor in the kitchen. It's just floor joists.
It's
Like-
just a shell, really.
Just basically, and then, like I said, there's no electrical to it now because it was ripped off. And then what tree branches fell on their side that remained, they're still laying there. So, like I said, there's just trash, old mattresses, it's just been like that for a long time. Personally, for me, you know, if you try to have any functions in your backyard, it's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. Your guests ask, you know, what's going on next door, who owns that kind of thing. So finally, 2.5 decades later, here I am.
Richard, is there any problem tagging that car to?
The car will run. It started, he showed them, they called us down there a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, whatever. It will start up and run.
But it hasn't moved.
Right. The lady that owns it does not drive any longer. She just does her there. She hasn't drove in years, so that's why it's parked there. And she does live there.
All right.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Judge.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Someone will be in contact.
That's fine.
Thanks.
We'll go down and look at it.
Thank you. Yep, see you.
All right, moving on, Mr. Kenny Fox regarding 411, 415.
Yeah, right here.
I'm Wendy Hurd, and I'm here with Kenny Fox. We're proposing to buy 411 and 415 West Front Street, so on the opposite end. And I realize that it has been a little bit troublesome for the community, the two residences, and it is on your list as well, I believe.
It's actually targeted to be torn down.
Right,
So-
right. Luckily, I think that we've been, well, Mr. Fox and Mr. Huffman have been in communication, and they are negotiating so that Kenny can purchase the homes, renovate them, and then sell them again to some lucky homeowners, I hope. We do have a timeline and an intent to purchase agreement.
To give
if you
one
don't
of our
mind.
attorney as well.
Yes, I will. There you go. It's a loose timeline of the events that, and the time that we need to be able to renovate, update, and bring these two structures up to code. And I hope that you consider us, definitely. Is there any questions that you have, or is there anything that maybe I need to elaborate on?
You are, who in this process? Sorry, I missed that.
I'm Kenny's peer, so we run Hartzell Restoration together.
Oh, got it.
And one of the reasons what appealed to us, or to Kenny, about one of the homes in particular, is that we specialize in fire and water restoration. And we have the tools and the equipment, the employees, and the manpower to renovate them properly.
Just one.
Yeah. Immediately, though, I do want to point out that we are going to make sure that the exterior of the homes are taken care of first. That's going to be the first thing on the agenda, and I think that that is on the timeline as well, both of them.
So what you're saying is the external issues with the building would be completed by October 1st? Is that the way I read this?
No, we're going to begin them.
That's
So
the
on the
beginning?
left-hand side are things that probably will be finished by October 1st. Those would be in the khaki color, and then the yellow color we would be starting, we would be beginning, and then hopefully be finished,
By February 1st?
right, by February 1st.
Got it.
We hope to have 411, that's the one that is not, it's smaller, it's the smaller home. I think there's a picture on that. We hope that that one is going to be complete and on the market by February 1st, if not sooner. And it really just depends on, our timeline depends, of course, on their negotiations of when we can close, when they can close on the home, and material. Sometimes material takes a little bit longer.
And I had that mold test done that we discussed a couple of months ago. You know, had a mold, thought about mold over there, and that's how I met Ken. And, the test, you guys should have the results. They come back at a good level, no problems. So I wanted to let them know if everybody knew that too.
So Bob, what are our options?
Well, as you know, it's already been deemed unsafe building. That order has gone through. You have submitted to the county for its listing of being destroyed at their cost, one of the programs on it. And I think we've talked before that until the wrecking ball gets there, I suppose you can always stop that if somebody comes in with a plan that you think makes sense for the use and future utilization of these houses. You can stop that. Until then, I think anybody that's taking any action with it is doing it a little bit at your own risk, because there is that order to demolish coming down. So your options would be, again, to do nothing until they got it to a point that you felt like you could remove it from the demolition list, remove it from the unsafe building order. So that would be one thing. The other is, if you feel like this is enough of a plan, that you could revoke that unsafe building order at this time and stop the process with the county. But that has not been your inclination before, for fear that what's been promised wouldn't get done. So those are kind of your two choices.
Do you think revoke or stay? Because revoke means they're safe again, and they're really not. We mean to
That's
maintain
true.
that liability issue.
That's true.
So-
It would be stay, you're really not staying the order because it's been there. You
Okay.
declared an unsafe building. What you would be staying is its demolition.
Ah.
And that would just mean telling the county, hey, if we get a word of that, don't tear it down yet because it's been stayed.
Yeah.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
That's
No,
kind
that's
of where
good-
we're standing
good
right now, isn't
clarification.
it, Bob?
I'm sorry.
Isn't that kind of where we stand right now?
That's kind of where, well, you haven't officially told somebody not to, you're still proceeding with the county's program. And so you haven't put a hold on that yet. But you haven't been trying to accelerate that either and going out and getting bids to all, at least implementing and contracting the tear down yourself.
So would putting a stay on be an official change in that stance?
It would be, to the extent that if you did that official stay, I think you'd owe it to the county to tell them that you had put that stay on.
Because of new information.
Yeah,
We've been approved for the property, so with the EDC, I just don't know if they can hang on to those dollars while we see.
that's a good point too.
You know, I mean, we can't ask them to hold on off of it, they've already awarded us the
Yeah.
grant for this. So I worry about, okay, if this doesn't pan out, then we've lost the money.
Good point.
I can state that we will hold off and allow you time to sort this out. The funds are not ARPA dollars, they don't have to be contracted by the end of the year, they're consolidated edit funds, and we retain those so we can hold on to these while you work out these two properties.
Good, that's good to
So
know.
that's good.
That is
I mean,
good.
That's great to know.
Yeah, so we could look at it again after the October 1 time, they have an October 1 time on here and see if we're making that progress and hitting those marks, and come back and address it again, right?
Well, but for their benefit, we probably need to do something official to say we're not going to tear them down, right?
So that they can move forward. Yes.
Well, I mean, you could make it contingent on, if this goes forward and they are put back into satisfactory condition, you would then stop the tear down.
There you go.
But if they don't, then you still have that in your back pocket to have the funds from the county to do that.
So I'm somewhat familiar with your company and appreciate what you guys do. And I know some of the company people, but have you done this before?
Yes.
Oh,
This type of
absolutely.
building? I just need to ask for the group.
Yeah, yeah, we do it every day. We've
All right.
probably got 6 or 7 different counties going on right now, so.
Okay.
Have you ever done them where they've already been deemed an unsafe building, in fact?
We have not ever had to take them out of, like, something like this, yeah.
However, I think some of the structures,
Have been as bad a
Yes.
condition?
Yeah.
I mean, we've had to take whole roof sections off, you know. You know, the one on the east side's rough. You know, it's gonna need, and I'll have to get a building permit for that, so it's gonna have to,
You know, as you mentioned, these properties have been on our radar for, I think everybody here feels way too long right now.
Yeah,
you know.
Way too long.
And so you understand, you know, why we're a little bit reticent about, you know, setting something
Yes.
back. However, I say that, but it's also, I think there's a benefit to having a house on a lot as opposed to not having an empty lot.
Yeah.
So there, you know, there's a juggling act there. I think we have to figure out.
Especially
I agree.
affordable housing.
Yeah.
Loving the vision you have here looks great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping that it's not too expensive for the community, but good housing is.
This is the most organized program that's been presented.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because
Thank
it's right behind my house. Does it include the garage?
on which one, 415 or 411?
The one that was on fire?
Haven't really got in that garage yet, but I mean, we're definitely looking into that. I
Okay.
told him I need the key to that as well, you know. But yeah, we're definitely redoing the garage too, or just cleaning it up.
Would you make an effort initially to make sure the properties are safe from the outside? Because the burned down
absolutely.
houses, it worries me with children and conditions that it be made safe almost immediately.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely have it boarded up, anything that needed boarded up, and, keep anything out secure.
I believe that's our intentions.
Yeah.
Is to make sure, and for the neighbors aesthetically as well, because I know that that's worrisome,
Yes.
so.
What do you think there, just the general opinion of the people that live around the area might be if we,
I think
this is the right thing to do?
Cambridge needs housing, I know that. I would hate to see just 2 vacant lots that you wouldn't be able to build something else on. My concern is that it be made into a livable, safe environment and wouldn't turn into some undesirable property. I assume that, by your plan that you've got a good workable plan and they would be done right. That's what I'm concerned about, because they've been neglected for so long, and they've been vacant so long. And I just can't imagine anyone doing this, but, I'm no contractor.
Thoughts down here?
May I add, Kenny also has been a carpenter and craftsman for over 40 years. He helped run crews with Miles Richmond out of Liberty. If you're familiar with that, they do custom built homes as well. So we do have that background.
And I'll be there probably doing most of the work. There's gonna be things I'm gonna sub out for sure, but just a minimal.
I think if we could have 2 nice homes on those properties.
It's a lovely neighborhood.
Yeah.
It is
really
a-
is.
yeah.
Not very
It is a lovely
desirable.
Where was that?
I mean, at the end, they're gonna have new roofs, new windows, new furnace, new plumbing, new electric, all that has to be done, so.
And absolutely, the garages or the outbuildings will be paid attention to.
Any advice, Bob, anything you should caution us about?
No, I mean, as long as you're not making a commitment, you're not changing the order, it's still there. Given what the county has indicated, I don't think you're running a risk of losing those funds. So I think right now the best is just to convey to these folks your intent that if this flows through as they are hopeful and as they have projected to it, at that point in time, you would seriously consider removing that unsafe order.
Do we need a motion for that tonight? Or just
I think just that consensus is what I would probably do rather than any kind of motion, because you're really not taking a formal action with the order.
I would consent to that.
Yeah, I would, absolutely. I would do that.
Okay,
Okay, appreciate that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Progress is progress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Keep
They're
us
really
updated.
cute, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, and you're welcome to leave if you want.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank
much for
you.
your time. Thank you. Oh, it's gonna be fun.
Okay, next up is Zoe Davis, update on the drainage tile on Shawnee Avenue and Walnut Street. And I think, Ken, you can address it. Or do you want
Yeah,
to
that-
say anything, Zoe?
I don't, some of you already know, but it just floods down in my area. So I had been here a few months back to see about getting that taken care of. They brought some railroad ties to remove the ones that I had that are rotted. And I did not know there was a hornet's nest in there, I'm sorry, but if you get it again, I've got EpiPens. Anyway, I was out working in the yard the other day and he stopped by and gave me an update. And if he doesn't care, I'd rather he just tell you what he updated me on.
I just informed her that that street is on the Community Crossings grant application. And since we've got paving as part of the project, we can put in drainage issues to have that. And so that will be part of that.
So we turn that in for next year.
That's on the grant, that's out at NDOT right now. We haven't heard nothing yet, but, and if it all goes through next spring, that'll be addressed.
And you probably won't have to see me again. Unless you come by.
It's a small town, probably.
It is, probably is.
Are you okay with that, Zoe, then?
Yes, I'm really good with that. These last few storms, If it had been winter, we could ice skate out there, but since it was summer, it was just kind of a walking, wading in the water type. But yeah, there is curbing west of me, but it's the rounded stuff and it's about this high. So when it does come, there is no drainage all the way up the hill, nothing. And when it all comes down, it goes shoot. And like I told you before, when I was a kid, that was great because I played in it, but I'm the homeowner now and I don't.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to go if you want.
I'm out of it.
I've got to go home. Oh, fun.
Okay, so now we go to Lori Lakes and Ed Smith on repairs to curb on Maple Street.
Yes, I'm Lori Lakes. I live at 416 West Maple Street. The water main broke in July of 2018 and it was repaired. And then it broke again in between April and July, I can't remember the exact date, in 2021. And the curb was never put back, so now my concrete slab takes all the water from the hill and it runs and it has eroded all of the concrete slab and the grass, and I need a curbing. And I noticed other repairs have been done, especially like across the street, the water main broke and they've already put asphalt on it to cover the hole, but mine hasn't been touched, and I want a curb so that the water can stop eroding. I really want my concrete slab repaired because it's been 6 years of all the water running when it, especially these recent storms where it's so much rain that it comes all the way back to the water, to the manhole for the water meter. There can't go grass there.
How big of an area is it?
It's probably,
Might be about a 3 to 4 foot long
yeah,
spot.
yeah.
How about curbing?
That's the curb.
That's the curb. Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
So Ken, you've looked at it?
I've looked at it, and I shared with you guys earlier that, a concrete mixer that we had that was given to us was broken, not repairable, so I purchased a small electric concrete mixer so we can get some concrete, be able to mix it and work on formula.
So the plan is to repair this area with that?
Yes.
Is there a timeline for that?
Hopefully, this week we can start on that. Start on that and
Make me
that
very
section over there on Mulberry.
Mulberry Street, yeah.
That would be, and now you can keep them.
Can you definitely have it done for our next meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Because if not, I'm gonna be back.
As much as we want you back, I just assume it was fixed.
Me too.
Have
Me
you
too.
noticed when you drive down that road how bumpy it is going down through there? Have you noticed that?
On what?
Maple,
Maple.
right? Like past their house.
Well, he told me when it broke that everything underneath Maple is old. I mean,
I mean, that is one of those streets,
It's terrible.
dependent on contingency money with our water project, if there's enough left, because when we had the leak in front of his house, we were under the assumption that was a 4-inch main that ran down through there. That's a 2-inch. And that's one of the streets we got if there's enough of the contingency money that we're gonna have that line replaced.
Sinkhole developing on Mulberry Street too.
So, I know my patch was repaired, which I appreciate that, it was right in front of my house. But I do have a question or two. Who's responsible for the sidewalks? Is that the homeowner or is that the city? So whoever has the sidewalk in front of the property is responsible for that. So if a tree grows and it buckles the sidewalk, those folks are responsible for it, okay?
And the tree is yours as well.
The trees, okay. So if the sidewalk is bad enough, how do you go about, do you just talk to the homeowner to say, hey, you need to replace your sidewalk right here? Or how do we get that done? The reason I ask is, we got a lot of older folks, at least on Mulberry, or on Maple right there where I am, that have walkers and, there's parts that they cannot navigate because of the sidewalk.
You know, you're putting in this park for all these kids, which is great, but we got a lot of elderly people that can't walk down the sidewalks. So, you know, trying to figure out what we, and sidewalks really help make a town, you know? So I'm just curious on how you go about taking it. Can you send out notices to force a homeowner to repair their sidewalk if it's deemed unsafe?
I don't know if we can.
I don't know if
We
we
have
have
to
to.
force the issue.
It would be like an unsafe property, wouldn't it? I mean, if the sidewalk is unsafe and it's their
I mean, there's some
responsibility.
serious angles
It's
and,
a big tree, I know which one you're
and,
talking about.
and some,
Down
Yeah.
in front of
some,
Sue's.
Yeah.
some serious stuff on that street. And then on,
Walking street.
the street right next to us,
Mulberry.
Mulberry.
But I think they addressed that when they were telling about mine. So
Oh,
you're
that-
gonna
that
fix
sinkhole?
where the,
Sinkhole, yeah.
Okay, I've been
barrier
looking
is.
at that barricade for a couple years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been flashing for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have we had in the past
Hey.
a cooperative effort between homeowners and the town? I've heard things about how if we'll remove and then if they'll put in, or if they remove, then we'll help put in. I mean, I've heard different things that, but again, don't know if that's true or false. Or did we have programs maybe that could help in the past for that?
Just from what I've read and from what was always conveyed to me by other superintendents is the town, if somebody's wanting to fix a sidewalk in front of their house, the town will come and remove the old sidewalk. And then it becomes homeowner's responsibility to put in a new sidewalk.
That's expensive, take
That
the
is
tree out.
expensive.
Yeah.
Removal is expensive too, so that's a good thing, but it is expensive.
But the trees are a different issue though. Those are, I mean, it's $1,000 for that tree or more. What, I don't know, some problems with big trees.
It's huge.
A lot of them, they'll, like with the guy that did our park, he told me how he comes up with his pricing is he'll look at the tree and sort of figure, okay, how long is it gonna take him? And he charges roughly like $2,000 a day. So,
There's a lot of school kids that walk, that's a school bus stop right there in that corner. And we got kids walking, and it's just gonna be dark,
Yep.
you
That's
know,
true.
and I know one of the little girls that walks is autistic, so,
Yep.
you know, just a tripping factor and all that.
With Marjorie and the walkers.
Yeah, Marjorie with the walker, and it's
Glenn.
just, Glenn. It's just, safe sidewalks are, you know, nice sidewalks really help enhance the look of the community. So I didn't know what you could do to help promote that.
We do have a code section on sidewalks, if I may just read the sentence. It says, in the event of a severe deterioration of the sidewalk or curb, it shall be the responsibility of the town to remove such sidewalk or curb, provided any replacement thereof shall be the responsibility of the owner of the ground fronting on such sidewalk at the owner's cost. If the town removes a sidewalk solely as a result of the request by the adjoining property owner, then that replacement will be mandatory upon the property owner. Otherwise, any replacement shall be at the discretion of the adjoining property owner.
So does that mean how safe it is?
That's
And
what deems it.
Yeah, what deems how safe it
Yeah.
is, I mean,
If it's severely
This is like-
deteriorated,
I would.
So
it's a big
who
tripping
has that
hazard.
judgment?
I know.
would Jim here have that?
Ken, maybe?
No,
I don't
Ken,
know.
yeah, we
I
can
mean, who
be able to judge that?
Didn't we have this on Lincoln? Wasn't Lincoln a question mark? At one point where there was buckle.
Oh, that's right, it
Yeah.
did buckle up,
And
right?
that, did we
Yeah, I
remove
I
that?
don't, I'm
from the
not
pro-
sure what happened there.
Church streets were bad down
Yeah,
there.
Church
There's a
Between
lot.
Walnut and Foot there, it's bad.
But what you're saying is, by the principle, we support and understand it, we've got to figure out how we can help the property owners, right? I mean, there could be something that we could do to support this, but I don't know how.
Is this something you would talk among yourselves for the next month? I come back next month and see what you want to do?
Well, you don't really
Or
talk
how-
amongst ourselves.
how does that work? I don't know how it
Except in
works.
public meetings.
I don't know how it works.
No, I understand. But that's something Ken, maybe the.
Yeah, we can talk
team
about
could
that,
talk
try to
about
come
it.
up with some.
There's a smaller committee that would work on that, yes.
Very good, thank you very much.
So what I understand for my sidewalk is you're gonna work on the slab and the curb?
we'll
And-
first get the curb and then see what we need to do with the rest of it.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys, appreciate
Thanks, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Next up is Julie Redford, request to have a food truck in the alley.
Yes, we would like to close off the part of the alley that is just west of our house that runs north and south from about 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on September the 7th.
And it's just from Front Street to the back east-west alley.
So half a block.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there would be a food truck in the alley?
Yes.
For whatever event?
Yep. His retirement party.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Is it a pickleball related?
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking.
You're invited.
So I can keep losing? Okay.
Jeff, any issues?
I had blocked no for a short period of time though.
Richard, any issues?
That is holiday weekend, right?
Yes. What time did you say, 5 to what?
9. I don't think it will be that long, but I'm just, giving myself a little bit of buffer time on each end, but I don't think it would be that long.
So
We typically don't
basically,
use
probably need a
alleys.
motion to close that
Fire
portion of
trucks
the
anyway.
alley for that amount of time.
That's correct. You don't have any regulations for food trucks themselves, but because it's a public alley, that they want to close off that and stuff.
Well, we're inviting all the neighbors anyway.
Anybody want to?
I'll make that motion to close the alley on September
7th.
7th from
5 to 9.
5 to 9.
Second.
PM.
PM.
Thank you.
Gary seconded.
Yes.
Have a motion and a second to close that portion of that alley during those times and dates. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You're good.
Thank you.
Will you need some barricades?
I don't know.
All right.
I can pull in on one end and they can't make it around that fence.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. If you want to bring some by, drop them off to the side yard
Okay.
here, that's fine.
I would put barricades there.
Okay.
Chris Stapleton, you are up next.
I would like to propose that the town do away with adding fluoride to the drinking water. There's been lots of studies going on nowadays, a lot of talk, a lot of web addresses and stuff all dedicated to it's not beneficial anymore like it was back in the 50s and 60s. Not to mention doing away with it would save the town money. Maybe you could use that for some sidewalks. But Gary and I have talked about this a few times, and I think Jim and I have also. There's just something about adding a substance to the drinking water for a community that has a big skull and crossbones on it. It's straight poison.
I've done some research on it since I went over there and saw the poison sign, and I think about it every time I turn on the tap. Now, thank you very much. But I do agree, it's not needed anymore. We have enough artificial things. We don't need to add that
It's
to.
everywhere now.
It's everywhere. So
We're probably being over ingested with it.
Do we know of other towns eliminating?
Dublin recently done away with theirs. Greenfield done away with theirs years ago. Centerville's no longer doing it. I haven't talked to Hagerstown yet, but no surrounding communities are adding fluoride to their water any longer.
So I guess, the question is there anything legally we have to do?
Well, it's not even monitored
When
by
Dublin
IDA.
asked me to research that, I did a thorough research on it. And if any town if you're in control of the public water supply, you have the right to remove that fluoride. The question became, do you have to have a public hearing on that? It is not legally required. Most places recommend it because it's a significant event to start taking it out of the water that you've had for years, but it's not legally required. Dublin chose not to have a public hearing, just had a motion and voted on it at one of their council meetings. So that would be up to you, but you do have the right.
Is there a specific process to how it's removed? Is it all at once?
We just stop adding it in and shut the valve off.
Okay, so it's not a gradual event, so.
If it was something that, I want to say, between 10 and 15 years ago was mentioned, and that there really wasn't no, I think they did have a public hearing then for that time, and there might have been like one person that showed up
You
that
need to put like something in the paper too.
that said, they were gonna,
Survey.
that they wanted it in, but there really wasn't a whole big, big support saying, no, we want it in there, or really wasn't nothing either way at the public hearing. And, that would have been the prime time to have done it back then. But I think, I agree with Chris, I think now would be a good time to go ahead and
Adam, do you have thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, it's a common discussion that's come up more and more nowadays. To Chris's point, a lot of the anecdotal information is saying they put enough in toothpaste and other things that you don't need to put it in your water anymore. To the point that it's toxic. I do appreciate that, but anything's toxic at a high enough concentration, right? So is oxygen and chlorine as well. Do you need to continue feeding it? I think that's up to the town's discretion, but to Chris's point, there's tons of anecdotal research that point to the fact that it's not needed anymore. I've worked with 3 different communities that have gotten off of fluoride, and it's a pretty simple process, but it is a change in your treatment process. The chemicals being applied to your water system are changing. So that requires notification to IDEM to let them know what you want to do, why you want to do it, and then you're typically required, to Sherry's point, some kind of public notice. Hey, public, here's what we're changing with the water system, with what you're drinking. It's an easy step to take, and I've seen a lot of communities go that route for those reasons, just to simplify things.
Are there a lot of communities that aren't going that route?
Yeah, I'd say it's a good 50-50. But
do they have reasons why they don't?
They've always fed it and they feel it's necessary. For as many articles that are out there that say you don't need it anymore, there's a lot of articles out there that say there's some merit to it still.
One thing is, our water has a natural fluoride in it anyways. That would probably, if it was tested, the raw water, it would probably test somewhere around like 0.2. When we test it daily, it can be anywhere from 0.5 to 0.8, some maybe a little higher sometimes. The state, their recommendation is, I'm not even sure if it's 0.6 or 0.7.
I was always told it was 0.7.
Well, and that has came down at one time. It was recommended your residual in your water should be at 0.8. So, the state has came down on what they say it should be already, So, I think at some point it's gonna come out to where, it may be 10, 15 years from now, but the state will even just say, oh, you don't even need to put, won't even recommend something like that.
That is the case now. The state does not require that you feed fluoride. Communities that feed it have chosen to feed it, and that's the only reason that they continue to feed it, because that's what we've done.
So what does the dentist say, like a pediatric dentist? Have you asked him or anything? I mean, it used to be that, fluoride is going to,
fluoride,
yeah, it's going to strengthen your teeth, and what if you quit taking it now, and then 20 years, 15 years?
And
teeth aren't very strong.
That's the difficult thing, Debbie. There's anecdotal stories of people that grew up without fluoride and some people that grew up with fluoride, and they look different, right? Their teeth are different.
Yeah, yeah.
This is outside of my turn, but my mother's a dental assistant, and she says you don't need it anymore, but, right, she's not an expert in that. There's probably another dentist that says you definitely do need it still.
When I was doing the research for Dublin, it seemed like those towns that did have public hearings, the people who came and spoke in favor of fluoride were most often dental associations, dentists that were still talking and advocating to keep it.
Can I put you on the spot, Bill?
Sure.
From a not an EDC standpoint, but from a site selection standpoint, do any companies, do any people that are looking to move to a location say, oh, do you have fluoride or don't? Have you ever run into that? Because I've never heard.
I've never been asked.
Okay, I just was curious.
Well,
The common
one
person
thing
probably doesn't know if it's in their water.
on that, Jim, like out at the industrial park, we do not add fluoride to that system. They had put a room in for the feed and for the chemical, but they never started putting it into the water out there.
Do we think we're properly skilled and capable of making that decision? I appreciate the recommendation, and I actually probably believe in it, but I'm just wanting to know, is that something we can decide, or is, is it that big a deal that we need to have
I think
external
it probably
support?
always elevates having a formal resolution that does that, so that then you can give people a notice of it. And I suppose you could even say that if you put it on your agenda for next month's meeting, if somebody had some great objections, I could have a resolution for you ready at that time. Might be the most prudent action rather than just off your cuff tonight and say, hey, yeah, let's do it, let's remove the floor. That's just my recommendation.
Just would like that as a, I always think about
So
liability.
you're thinking,
That's the first
right
thing I
now,
think
we just take it under advisement,
Take it
put
under
on
advisement,
next month's
put it
meeting?
on next month's agenda.
With a resolution
Give-
prepared.
yeah, have a written resolution prepared that removes fluoride from, determines that you are going to remove fluoride from your system. That way, when we notify the EPA or whoever else that we are, the state, that we are.
So Chris, I assume we have fluoride to last another month.
Yes.
So that when we won't have to buy more, you
Yeah.
can go buy us a month. So
Do we have to advertise it as well? Do we advertise that as a?
No, you do not have to, I mean, there's no
I'm
public.
sure I see the headlines right now, so. Is she gonna,
They've got your number.
they'll
Oh, that's
call.
true. I couldn't see behind Richard.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, if I may, between now and next month, it might be a good step for Ken to take to contact IDEM, just to know what kind of hoops you might need to jump through to stop feeding, if it's a notice or a permit, or, what that requires.
Your recommendations they might have for how to move forward.
Maybe you're not the first town to think about this, maybe they've got a recommendation for how you notify people.
Chris, you probably researched some of this.
A little bit, yeah. I was gonna ask Bob if Dublin had done anything similar
No,
to
they
that.
really did, I mean, other than just, I think they did talk about it at a work session and then notified, not publicly or any kind of official thing, let people know it was gonna be voted on the next meeting, but that's all that they did. And then,
Okay.
as far as whether they, I didn't follow up whether they contacted officially IDEM afterwards or not, I assume they did.
Okay.
Is everybody comfortable with that approach?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sounds good. Thank you both.
Chris, sound good for you?
Yes. Thank you.
I'm sure there's an insulting down there somewhere.
We'll find something.
Thanks for bringing it up, Chris. Next up, Valerie Schaefer.
That's your turn. There's a lot.
Hi everyone, I'm Valerie Schaefer, President of the Economic Development Corporation of Wayne County. And I'm here this evening to let you know that at the end of this year, your unit contribution agreement will be expiring. That is an agreement between the town and Wayne County to provide 1/2 of your economic development income tax revenue towards countywide economic development efforts. We've been fortunate for decades that anywhere from 7 to 9 communities sign on for 4-year agreements to provide 50% of that revenue because they believe in countywide economic development and pooling funds for the greater good of all involved throughout the county. Those funds are utilized for the EDC's operating budget. Our budget this year is $775,000, and then the remaining funds are used for special projects. As you know, we've invested $1 million in the new Western Wayne Regional Sanitary District, the new wastewater treatment plant. We've also been good partners with you on the new water tower project, working with Wessler and the town and collaborating on the EDA grant that we just completed, as well as planning and determining the scope for that project. You know the EDC mostly working with industrial development, whether it's industrial parks or actually recruiting and assisting our existing businesses in growing. And that is still our primary responsibility as an organization, as your lead economic development agency. In the last 18 months, we've been fortunate to work with 7 different companies who are in the process of investing $470 million across the county and creating 271 new jobs. So we're really proud of that work. Right now, we have 2,700 job openings in Wayne County. We work to create the Wayne County Job Finder. It's a website on homeandwayne.com where any resident, you can go to that website and it crawls the web and looks for all job openings. So it's a great job resource tool that I would encourage you to promote. But in addition to that, even though we're still highly involved in industrial development, business development, we've been working a lot in community development lately. We've worked really collaboratively with all of the communities that participated in the county's HELP program. We were on the scoring committee for the downtown revitalization grants. We created the blight elimination program that you all discussed this evening that you're submitting a few properties for. And we also contributed to your playground project as well as the other 4 across the county. So not only are we interested in creating jobs, we're interested in building community so that we have places that residents want to live. And that's all a cycle, right? Because we can't attract businesses if we don't have people to work at those businesses. So we need to really focus on investing in our quality of life as well. And I think you've seen that the EDC has made that shift and expanded our role over the last couple of years. We're still also involved in workforce development efforts as well. Teresa Lindsay in my office, she works really closely with Lincoln and helping those students with career awareness, connecting them with employers for job shadowing, apprenticeships, internships. We host Manufacturing Day every year, and your students come and tour manufacturing plants across the county to understand what jobs there are in manufacturing, from entry level all the way up to plant manager, accountants, HR managers, et cetera, making sure that they understand the breadth of job openings in that industry sector. And then housing is another area that we've kind of jumped into because we realize housing is critically important to recruiting and retaining our residents. And so you'll see in the next coming months, we're going to be working on developing a housing infrastructure program to help new housing starts for unfinished platted subdivisions that are just sitting there idle. And we know that we could get some new home starts underway quicker if we would help with some infrastructure funding. And then downtown development. While we have been involved with the downtown revitalization grant program across the county, a lot of those downtown efforts have been focused in Richmond due to some grant funding that Earlham has received, and us helping to attract some outside developers to reinvest in downtown Richmond, and then also working on the READY program with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation with the redevelopment of the former Elder Beerman building. But I hope you see that even the work that goes on in Richmond and Centerville and Hagerstown and other communities across the county, that you all see the benefit because it's adding to the quality of life across the entire county beyond the limits of Cambridge City. So I just wanted to give that brief EDC update so you knew everything that we were involved in. And you don't have to make a decision tonight, but I did send Bob that unit contribution agreement, and he also has the capital improvement plan. County Attorney Ron Cross wanted me to make sure to share that with you all because you do have to have that capital improvement plan completed every 2 years, outlining how you're planning to spend your edit tax revenue in order to get that distribution from the county.
Which form is a little bit of a misnomer and still a holdover because they still require that form even though you no longer have to spend your money for capital improvements. So you still have to do a capital improvement form that says, and you can also amend that form at any time too. So it's something we put together and put in there, but we're really not locked into it, especially since you don't have to use it for capital funds, capital projects.
But I looked in 2024, you will have committed $50,777 to the Consolidated Edit Fund for countywide economic development. That contribution has been growing as new jobs are being created and wages are inflating. That increases the economic development income tax that's being paid. So it's increasing not only your distribution, but also the distribution that goes to the Consolidated Edit Fund. That's jointly controlled by the EDC board and the Wayne County Commissioners.
That was a number I was about, approximately 50,000 each year. So we're getting 100, this gives them half to EDC. And you have historically done that. And you've heard from Valerie, it's been beneficial for what EDC has done with that, their share to help Cambridge City.
So what's the time, when do we have to have this contract done?
By the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
Yeah. The current contract is through December 31st.
And the decision to support that?
I'm sorry?
The decision to sign up again for the next 4 years, when is that due?
That would be by December 31st.
It is by the end of the year.
Yeah, by December. Although I'm sure the county would like to know ahead of time so they're not, as they plan ahead with their budget process.
Yeah, I was going to say the budget process, I thought might want to see
Yeah,
that.
so I'm sure they would like to say the sooner the better, but it doesn't have to be done until December.
Okay, thank you.
I'd say let's, what do you think, put it on the agenda again for next month, give everybody time to digest it.
Great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say personally, I appreciate the job you did, especially with help and contributing to everything and the help with the water tower as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, go if you want.
I'm gonna stay for his update.
Yeah, there's still a lot of fun, still a lot of fun
It's his
left.
turn.
So much fun stuff to talk about.
Adam Sitka, you are up. So.
Hi, Council. The only thing on the agenda is pay application 9 from Cooley, but I just have a general update on all the things we have going on. So in your packets, pay application 9 from Cooley, that's for about $103,000.
That's not the last one.
No, that is not the last one. This runs out the contract and claims 100% on the line items claiming installed. So this means the contract is substantially complete and we're paying them out for all the work pieces done. What we're not paying them out is their retainage. We held 10% retainage on this project, so there's still $150,000 sitting in our account that needs to get paid to them. We're intentionally sitting on that $150,000 because we were waiting on the resolution from today's meeting with them. We had several items open on the punch list, meaning there were work items that we felt were deficient, that they disagreed. So we met today and we're able to come to agreement on all of those items. So moving forward, after this pay application for $103,000 is approved, next month I expect there'll be another pay application for the balance of the $150,000 of retainage. I say the balance of that because part of the decision we came to today was that the town will keep $20,000 from that work because the work that was done wasn't quite the way we asked for it. So we'll keep those $20,000 and then also withhold engineering fees from the original substantial completion date until today. Those will be deducted from the $150,000 contingency retainage and Cooley will be paid out for the balance.
Are they still not fighting about the liquidated damages from the substantial completion date?
They didn't have any gripes about the $20,000 for the work today, but when I reminded them that we're summing up the total for engineering, they asked that they were paying for engineering. And I reminded them to refer to your letter, which stated our position on that. So they're now reminded that they will be paying engineering. And the specifications outline the provisions for that. We have some options on how to proceed.
We really didn't act as harsh as we could have on that liquidated damage.
That is very clear, yeah, very clear, and I think we can remind them, options on how we proceed. We can send them another letter saying, here's what that deduct will be, but the specs also provide the means to just say, here's what you're getting paid. We don't necessarily have to give them that courtesy. I'd recommend we do that just to keep the relationship going.
Trail of what?
Right, and they were amicable to work with coming to a resolution today, so I think we owe them that clarity back. So that wraps up everything with the industrial park, plant, and wells. In the next month or two, we'll have everything finalized with this paperwork and be ready to move on to the next thing. Any questions on that?
We'll need a motion to approve this.
Let's take a
Oh,
motion
yes,
to
please.
approve pay app number 9 first.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve pay app number 9. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Coming out of the balance for the 1B project, there is, I think, around $200,000 or $300,000 left in the SRF loan. With those dollars, we submitted an amendment to the SRF PER to allow us to install 1 or 2 additional water lines. Just providing an update, we expect that to be approved by SRF sometime in October. They've got to do environmental vetting, so there's a lead time to that. When we met with Cooley today, they did indicate they were interested in this work still. Which is advantageous for us because that means we don't have to advertise it, we don't have to bid this work, we can just let them do this work. Their availability isn't until spring, so if we want to go that route, that would mean we put this on ice until Cooley is available to complete this additional work for us. Something to consider in the next month while all this is lining up. The next phase is of the water project. Phase 2, like Valerie mentioned, the water tower at the industrial park. We expect to hear back from the EDA grant sometime in September, so we'll know the path on that and the time we want to move forward, how quick. One thing I wanted to update council on was the SCADA work. The work that's in the contract is about finished up, and one thing to consider would be ongoing support for SCADA. Historically, the town has used Rob Jefferson for that because 20 years ago, he was the guy that wrote the code for the SCADA software. This time around, Wessler staff wrote that code because of the situations which we had to procure the work, and I want to see if the town would be interested in having something set up for ongoing support for that. These types of things would look like, well, there's a bug in something, or maybe operators want to change a level when this tank turns on or that pump doesn't turn on. We've got ways that, one, for quick troubleshooting would be remoting into, so we don't have to drive out here, but then also coming out in the middle of the night when things don't turn on, they're not working. If you're open to that, for Wesley providing that level of support, all I need is a green light and I can prepare a contract for that, to something for Bob to review and go over next month.
Any thoughts? Doesn't hurt to review the project proposal.
Chris, do you have any
Very-
thoughts?
No, I'd like to hear the proposal myself.
Very good, we'll put one together for you. And then lastly, just an update on the lead service line and GPS work. That's going smoothly. Don't have a whole lot to report, but progress is being made and they're getting things surveyed around town.
I don't know, Chris, what would you say? You guys 2/3 done? Maybe?
I don't know.
He's here every day.
I just going
It's
by.
tedious everyday stuff.
Last I heard it was around half, so I don't want to make any big
Yeah,
promises.
you know, the last update I got from Kurt, you know, with what he had labeled, how many meter pits, valves, all that. You know, just number wise, I was looking at that point, like I said, about half, and I wasn't sure, you know, with what you guys have done.
I'd say we're pretty close to it.
But, you know, that's why I thought maybe we're getting pretty close, like 2/3,
It's going a
maybe
lot faster
third.
than I anticipated.
That's good. That's everything I have for council.
I have a question back on contingency.
Please.
I have to bring it up every time. So the 240K for the water mains, if we agree for them to do this work and it reduces our costs and efforts by going to some other approach, like bidding it or something like that, and we wait for them, is there any chance that they will be able to do this for less than what is in the contingency? Because I'm always looking to free up any money that we can use for other.
Jim, there's always a chance anything can happen.
Okay.
Today, when we had those discussions, and Cooley said, we can't touch it for 6 months, our immediate response was, well, whenever you want to do it for our price. So that's kind of our.
So that locks them in, first of all, so it's not going to be more than that.
Right.
Okay, so that's a good thing.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily reduce it because we're giving them that opportunity.
Well, let's reduce it, because right now we just have our engineering estimates for what those water lines are gonna cost. We don't have any hard numbers for the bid, and where the market is, it's all over the place.
Okay.
So by reaching out to them now in this manner and telling them, hey, here's some guaranteed work 8 months from now, that positions us to get very good pricing on it, but we don't have a hard apple to compare that against now. We're
Okay.
just comparing it to engineers' estimates.
So we'll see.
Right.
Great, thank
But
you.
we're doing everything we can to keep that low.
I'm sure you are.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good question.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to unfinished business.
I gotta sign, see ya.
Thank you.
See ya. See ya. That was all guessed.
Progress report, yeah, where's everybody going? Progress report for ongoing blighted properties. And Ken, I'll say, I spent about an hour today going around looking at all these properties and you know, some of them are just weed, you know, so these aren't all the blighted properties, but, and I'll tell you what I saw was good news and bad news. You know, good news is some of them are making progress.
Some of them making progress and
some are not.
That are going to be we'll be getting another letter with a fine addressed says to it, since they decided not to do anything.
So do you have any specific updates, or does anybody have any questions about specific properties that they'd like to ask? Because the list is long and I don't think we want to go through all of them individually here.
So will you give me a list of who's gonna get a fine?
Yes, I'll give you a list of anybody I send a find out to.
Okay.
I'll give you a list, so if they come in That way we know, who's paid and who hasn't,
And I do think this, this is good sending this out, and I know it'd be probably good to get it updated and get it out to everybody again.
yeah.
So the blighted properties, are they on a timeline now? So when next time we get a grant opportunity to demolition, that we'll be ready to go?
Well, I guess it depends on if you're talking unsafe building or,
Unsafe.
I did send out another letter on a home as a potential unsafe building. And that, I'm waiting to see if I get it back in the mail, which there's a good chance I will. Then some of these others that I send out are, the unsightly properties. Some people's definition, blighted, that falls under the same area. And those are ones that, I've sent some out, and those are the ones that go back and reevaluate. They have it. I give them so much time to do something, and then if they don't, then I put another letter out. So if they don't do nothing, the first letter is just a warning, hey, this is, and they don't do nothing, well, then they get another letter, and I give them like $100 fine with another time frame. Then,
To the fire.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I did notice there were several, obviously in progress, but we don't want it to be forever in progress, so.
and and on those with unsightly properties, all I can really do is keep sending them letter and keep assessing a fine. And then at some point, it will, the fine gets big enough, and if there's multiple, that's when, we'll have to have Bob get involved in, do we proceed,
Well, we've only received one fine. I mean, I don't know if you've sent any out
I've-
for another fine and another fine.
I think I
We've
sent
only
a couple
gotten
more, I'll
one
get
fine.
I'll get you an updated list. Like I said, once we get, if those fines get to be where, one person has a $2,500, in all reality, owes the town $2,500.
But what happens if they don't pay the first fine? You
Well,
give them a second fine and then.
It just keeps adding up,
Okay.
adding up. And at some point, we would have to decide whether we want to proceed like with court, wouldn't we, Bob?
Oh, yeah.
That's yeah.
Other than if it's the fee related to your weeds.
Well, that I'll put on their taxes.
Right.
Sheila get that.
Yes.
You got the
Yes,
revised.
I gave that,
Yep.
yeah, she did.
Is there a capital for how
How
many
high?
notices and fines they can get?
No. Do you eventually get the house or what? Is that how it works?
If you get a judgment, you get a judgment lien on it, then you can foreclose on that judgment lien, and ultimately.
I think, correct me, Bob, like if the way the ordinance was on like the unsightly properties, it could go up to a maximum fine of up to $2,500.
I think that's right.
So that's where the fine, once they hit $2,500, that's,
So that would be like when you're going to buy a property, that's why you do a background check on the
Uh-huh.
property, you
Yeah,
make sure
liens
there are
on
no
it.
liens
Oh,
against it or
right,
anything like
and
that.
that has to be paid at the closing.
Right, at closing you would have to.
And that's
pay.
what sometimes people will do, because it does get, once you start foreclosing on it, you're foreclosing on it like you do a mortgage, and that does take time, effort, court action.
Right.
So if you think it's a house that flips quite a bit, just wait till the sale comes,
Yeah.
and then you'll have your judgment paid.
Yeah, it's gonna sell again and then you get it back. Okay. We've talked a lot about the house, like the weed letters and stuff. What gets a house, triggers it to come off of that list so that we don't have a list? Sometimes it's almost overwhelming to look at. And a lot of those, well, they mowed the grass,
Well,
do they come off the list, or do we wait 6
I
months
get-
and then take them off the list if they're still doing
that
what
list
they
that I
should do?
send you guys, that's just my list of compiled of who I sent letters to.
Okay.
And that will be, I will keep that as, at the end of the year, I'll copy and print that whole thing off and stick it in my weed file.
But the ones that are doing things right should be purged off of that.
Well, I don't send them nothing no more.
Right.
And like I said, and if I have to send them a second weed notice, I put it in
They're not fines.
where that address already is.
Right.
And if there's nothing else going on, it just stays. It's just that way it gives me something to measure on how many people at the end of the year, how many people did I have to get on to mow their grass? And, you know, how many
More
times
than you think.
how many times did one person get notified?
Well, I will say there were some homes that were on the list for weeds and such, that on the update, it said it was mowed in May or something like that. And when you go by, obviously it's been mowed again since May. So some
Yeah.
people are getting the idea.
Getting the idea and,
So Mike, back to your question, if they're mowing it consecutively and you get like a 3-week or 6-week consecutive, them actually maintaining the property, can you drop them off the list then?
They're not really, what I give you is not a list that I send out all the time.
Understood.
That's just where I keep
Okay,
track
that's
of
what I was
who I sent letters to. And then I put notes in there if I send them another, I won't take that thing off of there because I want that address for next year. Something for me
just
to
something
go
to look at,
for the
something
next
you go by,
year.
just drive by and take a look and see
Yeah.
whether they're still.
Because there's a good chance if I've sent them a letter this year, they're probably gonna get something again next year. And that gives me a list of where I can start when I go looking for those. I can pull that list out and say, okay, yeah, he was on here, he was on there, and I can start hitting them. They don't necessarily are on a list, off a list. That list that I send you guys is just my compiled list of who I send letters to.
Yeah, I think, Chris, actually, if they get one letter and they get it taken care of, really, they're kind of off the list.
It's just I keep them under surveillance. And
Okay. I know if somebody got a letter, they just mow it that one time and then that's it, and then they're off the list, and then
Right, yeah.
it takes 3 weeks for it to get knee high or whatever, and then you'll have to start the whole process over again.
and I do
Bottom line is
know.
all those houses on there aren't an active problem all the time.
Right,
Right, okay.
I do know.
Clear on that.
From some things I've read, there are some towns, that they send one letter out. And that's the only notice those people get. And if it goes to a second time where it needs mowed, they got a sign that they put out in the grass that shows how tall it was and the date, and they just mow it. And they send another bill. They don't actually send them a letter every time it needs mowed, but they take a picture of a sign in the yard that shows how tall that the grass was, we'll say, like let's say it said August 10th, and the grass was, 8 inches tall. They take a picture of that, and then the town employees mow it, and they send a bill out for it.
But the other side of it is, we don't want to be a mowing service.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, if the fine doesn't get over $300, well, maybe I'll just quit buying gas.
All right, is there anything else on that subject, so we move on? All right, thank you. The other unfinished business was 3 quotes on the fire station roof, and I understand one of them was pulled because of the
date.
age of the.
And the other one is dated in April as well, so I don't even know if that one will be any good. Do you know?
Good for 90 days? Quotes like that.
It depends on what it
Yeah.
says.
Okay.
This, yeah,
30 days.
so,
And they don't say. When I follow up on those, contact the 3.
this one we got is July.
One's new.
Yeah, it's new.
It's new. It was, I think it was ice cream too.
Yeah, that one's new. Oh, July.
What's the spread between the 3 of
22nd.
them?
About $15,000 in it, Jim. I don't know off the top of my head.
So real quick, we did get the new one. So this one we know is good, and it was, is that at
Yeah, this is the
$38,940?
one.
But then they added on gutters too.
Gutters, he gave me 2 because he wasn't sure if the others had written gutters or not.
So that one, holes is,
Oh, that's that.
42,000.
42,000.
And then the gutters
And
are
then they added
27.
$27.70 for that. But this one we know is still good.
This,
The distinctive construction, this is the one he pulled out, right?
no,
No, this one is still good. as far
Disoni's
as we
was the
know.
one that pulled out.
But it also doesn't have gutters.
It was pretty vague.
Right, so.
I don't know who that person is.
Oh, it doesn't.
This one was sent to Travis.
I don't know, I don't know who this guy
I'm not sure.
Did we do specs on that we should have, as far as when you're asking, so you compare apples with apples as far as?
That I have no idea.
They should all be bidding on the exact same.
We asked the same contract.
So you've got to be a little bit more careful in what you're doing on soliciting quotes for this.
So I did not give out any specs, no. Did you?
Just done what we
Ken?
needed, just basically that we needed a full roof replacement, and once I was to be a continuous roof.
Did you do that in writing, or did you just verbally tell
Just
them?
verbally told them what was going for.
Okay, so we need to start over.
Let's,
Okay.
yeah,
We need to write something up and nail all those particulars down.
And give them a date that it has to be supplied by, so that we know that it's coming in and it's less than 30 days for your next meeting. And you can do that, you don't have to put it in paper because of the amount that's involved, but I would go to the vendors that you are thinking about and give them specifics so that they're all quoting the same one.
And if we forget something, to put something in there, it's on us, not on them. Yeah, they have.
So does Jeff write up his own specs? What do you
Well,
want?
for the two of you, and I can look at it too, but just so that, and put it in writing and give that to everybody that is quoting, so that they are all working off the same
I'll work with
basis.
Jeff, you can, we'll get the specs, run it by Bob.
Are you saying I don't know anything about this? Are you saying I don't know
I'll come
anything
down
about
with you.
Just trying to help.
Yeah.
You'd have to station work it out.
I can make the call. Okay.
Well, you broke my house.
Sure.
All right, so we'll move that on to the next month's
Okay.
agenda. All right, on to new business. Steve Brown is resigning seat number 2, and I think that's that fall on me to assign somebody to that.
For the Western Maine Regional Sewage.
Yeah, I say, is that appointment by your president or is that appointment by the whole council?
We have, I looked in our ordinance book, but I didn't find anything on
It would
it.
not be an ordinance. but
Okay, so it
based
just
on-
says, the stormwater says appointments by the town council, no more than 2 in the same party, but the Western Maine Regional says we have 4 seats. That's all it
Okay, then
says.
that would be the council's.
Council? Council.
Okay.
So we already have Mike and
There,
Amy, Irvin, and Jim Cohen,
Okay.
and then Steve Brown wants to come off. He's seat number 2.
Well, why don't you just ask the public if anybody's interested, submit their name in the next month's meeting.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun, I can vouch for that.
The meetings are short, aren't they?
Generally.
I was on it for years, I know how fun they are.
I've been in here as short as 4 minutes.
Yeah, but it might be better now. You want to try it again? Are you sure? It might be a lot better now.
I don't think I do.
So
I'm
we
done.
need to do that, an ad or anything like that,
We
or?
don't have to do it now. We just got to convince somebody. How about Julie? Billy?
You don't need a
I'll
public.
see,
Billy?
Billy's
Pointing to Billy.
retiring. He needs
Yes.
something to do.
Yeah, really.
You're here at all of our meetings. It might be fun.
So let's just go out and solicit and see who we can find. We don't want to put somebody on the spot here
I
tonight.
think he was about to answer though. He was ready.
Sure, why not?
See?
See, there you go. 2 Mondays a month to go do work.
It's up to council, not Jim.
If you want to do it tonight, there's nothing that prevents you. I mean, historically, you've not had like a big waiting list of people.
No. And I have asked a couple people and
Got the arm wrestle
that
for
was
it.
not, yeah, it was not good.
There's not a long line, you're right.
Right. So if he wants to give it a shot.
Suits me.
Yes.
Do you want to know what your responsibilities are? before
It's free, it's me.
Yeah, it's about 10 minutes.
About
every
sewage
time.
department,
10 minutes.
and
Yeah.
I can spread a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to nominate as a record? Anybody want to make that motion?
Motion
I'll make-
to, go ahead, please.
I'll make the motion we nominate Bill Redbeard.
Everybody.
Gee, thanks.
We have a Motion and a second to nominate Bill Recker as our, onto the Western Maine Regional Sewage District Board.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll let her know, I'll get a letter out.
Thank you, Bill.
See you next
Yeah, thanks,
Bill.
Thank you.
7 o'clock sharp.
Welcome to retirement.
AM or PM?
It's PM. It's,
Oh.
Yep. 1,900 hours.
I know what that is.
All right, moving on to the tornado siren.
Gary Green said he came and took the box out, took it over, all electronics worked. He's trying to set up a time. I told him we'd provide the power to lift him up to work on the antenna. He thinks there might be a problem up there. Wouldn't want to pay for him to rent one. And so he said he'd let us know when he was available to come and do it. It just, he said everything works, it just won't get, it's not getting a proper signal. He said he thinks it's up in the antenna on the top of the antenna tower.
Who is it that's working?
Gary Green, like Green Electronics out of Richmond. He's the one that's been maintaining it for several years.
Okay.
A lot of years.
Is there a maintenance?
We have a maintenance agreement with him.
But is it he's there every year?
He twice a year.
And stuff like that?
Yeah, he twice a year, and then whenever I have a problem, I call him.
Oh.
And so he's been, and he was on long before this started. We was trying to get it. We felt like there was a problem. Been watching the test and been calling him and telling him it's not going.
He doesn't know when he can get to it.
He said he'd get to us as quick as he could. He said there's other places that have the same issue.
It's pretty concerning.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
we've had
I
some
believe me, I've been
very
having
unhappy
several
people.
conversations with him.
Very unhappy people.
Yes. Yeah, when I'm standing underneath it and I call him and tell him to try it again, it's not going off, and I hear other communities going off. And I was standing underneath it. It's a little unsettling because it's in my yard, it's not working, you know?
Luckily, I heard somebody else's.
Yeah.
I think you
I heard
heard
doubles.
Bernie's.
I heard
You heard
first
doubles.
version.
I hear them coming all around, I hear them all around, it's not ours.
Let's stay on top of it.
Oh, I am. I am. We had a conversation last week, I was out of town for that, but I had a conversation with him last week, and that's what he said, he'd have to rent a lift, and I said, we'll lift you up. You get over there.
Yeah. So let us know when you'll be here.
Yeah, I think just as a commitment from the council, Jim, you've talked to me about this, we're all over this and want to make sure that
Yeah, I've been after it, it's not something I've been ignoring, believe me.
it's important. Just thought you should hear from them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right, moving on to an approval for the Goalie Center to host the Monster Mash October 19th.
Right, this is something they do every year. It's one of their fundraisers, and she just wants your blessing because you don't close any streets, Ken. You don't give barricades or nothing, right? You guys? So she just wants.
Barricades, I think they get them from the county or something.
Yep. And it's on October 19th at 10 o'clock.
So we don't have to do anything, right?
I think you guys usually make a motion for them to do it, but
Motion to approve the,
yeah.
Make a motion, we approve the Monster Mash.
have a motion second to approve the Goalie holding their Monster Mash 5K run on the streets Saturday, October 19th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay.
So next is ARPA commitment obligation by 12/31. So I looked at this, right now, the fund has $176,372.46. We did say we'd do the fire department roof out of that. From these three quotes we had, I took the middle one, which was $38,940, but this is going to change at this point. That would have left $137,432.
Hi, everybody.
We actually committed more than, we committed that to the
Venue.
the performance venue. So basically, that's where our funds, those funds are going to go.
So Bob, do we have to have that written or just an obligation?
You have a written contractual obligation for that, so are you anticipating that well, if you award the venue thing, then that would be part of that commitment that you have signed up on before December 31st.
And then we would try to get the roof done by December 31st, right?
Well, the roof doesn't have
We
to be
don't
done.
have to.
Oh,
Just
We just have to
okay,
commit it.
just commit,
Yeah.
okay, the contract.
and contract it out.
It has to be under contract.
So we should be okay with those two things.
Okay. Is that something you do, Bob, or do I need to go online and see what they have?
So basically 40,000 of it says when the fire department. And what's the rest again? Okay, yeah.
137,000.
Yep, yep.
So that's being used
I spaced
for
out.
water.
I believe so, right?
What's that?
None's used for the water project, there's
No.
none left, no. Just that 188,000 I think we used at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's supposed to pay part of it after the speed signs due.
That's already come out.
That's a
we
3.
already- That
already
came
done.
out for July.
Okay.
Yeah, because we did have 179, so some was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, House Bill 1167 requires governing bodies of state and local agencies live transmissions of public meetings
Yep.
effective July 1st, 2025.
Yeah, just giving you a heads up, we gotta get.
There is a subsection of that that would give you an out, that it says, if a governing body does not have internet capability for live transmission of its meetings, the governing body shall record the meeting and retain the recording as provided in subsection F.
Which would be these guys, right?
Yeah.
WCTV.
Well, you don't record the meeting?
I-
You got a tape of it, don't you?
Recorded on this whole thing.
It's recorded up there.
Oh, the camera?
I was gonna say the
Oh,
camera's
camera too.
recorded.
It's not retained, it would have to be.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't say it has to be a video recording of it. It is just that you will record the meeting and retain the recording as provided in subsection F.
Yeah, about mini cassette.
If it works.
Yeah, so I don't know if,
1970 special.
but you'd have to prove you do not have internet capabilities for this live transmission of meetings. Can you say that now? You do not have.
We have live internet here. Don't we?
Wait, wait.
Yeah.
Well, and we've actually already approved installation of a TV up here at some point too. So we can have off-site attendees of our meetings. So, with the internet, it's really, we just need a camera, I think,
And microphones.
and a microphone, yeah. I think it can be done.
Technically, yes.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
The question is then, if you transmit it live, is what venue do you use to do that, right? I mean, it's what,
If we.
you use YouTube, Facebook,
Yeah.
On your website?
To,
yeah,
Yeah.
to
to send
broadcast.
it live.
Put it up on
Those
Rumble,
options.
go up against Joe Rogan or something.
True.
So it doesn't say how it needs to be broadcast, it just has to be live
You
broadcast.
could just have a Facebook streaming one or live.
Yeah. I mean, we have a website, right? We can stream
We
it live
do.
on our own town
It just talks
website.
about live transmission of the governing body's meetings. And it says you shall include the website for your live transmission and keep archived copies of live transmission in the meeting notice.
For how long?
Definitely.
Goodness.
I think our own website would be better.
Okay.
90 days.
Okay.
Yeah, more, so
Provided
3 days.
transmission recordings up to 90 days, yeah.
That's not bad.
Okay.
Figured it'd be 2 years or something like that. Most documents.
You can destroy it after 90 days. It doesn't mandate you to destroy it the day after 90 days.
So it's just
So
something we
you
need
don't
to
think
work
it,
on.
yeah, so you don't think it'll be anything big, that a lot of money spent?
I don't think so.
I
Do
talked
you?
to Eric Marsh and he said something about like a webcasting pro media. Is that, anybody familiar with that? Webcasting service, pro media.
There are services that can do this, but we can do it ourselves.
You do it yourselves by your
Yeah,
website.
I don't think it'd be any issue
Right,
at all.
cool.
Get a camera.
Okay, well, I've gave you a heads up.
Which we're gonna have for the Zoom meetings anyways.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on, capital investment for town equipment. Mr. King, you want to hit this one?
Yeah, so I want to say that we've spent some time in the last week engaging with town employees and talking to Ken and also observations over a long period of time that the equipment for the town is maintained heavily. It takes a lot of time to keep these things running. Some of the equipment is substandard. Some of the equipment is obviously not on warranty. Some of the equipment has taken a lot of time, energy, and money to fix. So what I did today is I submitted a proposal to the board or not a proposal, but an overview of this, and well as to Bob. And I think what the best thing to do is for us to take this into discussion. And Bob, I'd ask your advice on this. It is very difficult to figure out how to fund capital improvements for the town. I do understand that now a little bit better than I did before, but that doesn't mean it is not necessary to be done. We have to figure out some way to organize spending as best we can to upgrade the equipment for various reasons. And so I just don't think this is probably the best time to discuss the proposal because we haven't had a time to take a look at it. So what is the best way to keep this discussion going? Any thoughts?
Well, one thing you might be able to, because there are separate funds that we have utilized for CCI, CCD, for fire equipment, for police equipment. We can look into see if there's another type of fund that can be created that's now reverting over, that flows through every year, kind of like a capital improvement fund for those kind of things, to see if there's anything else. Because I don't ever see you probably having enough in your tax fund as far as being able to do that. Now, edit, every year we're kind of jumping and throwing some numbers in as far as 20,000 of the 50 can be used for capital, and I don't know whether there's ever anything absolutely planned, but I think it's going to take a combination of various funds to do what I think you want to do. And as far as the best way to go forward on that is maybe just have a subcommittee, a finance committee or something that would look into the possibilities from down the road.
One of the things that we've talked about as a group before also is the purpose of having good equipment, good team, good effort is to grow as a community. And communities don't grow if they're decaying on any front, whether it's your downtown, whether it's whatever. And so one of the things we're looking at is what does it take to grow our tax base? And that's the reason why we're also considering.
Well, yeah, that would always give you more tax money that would help on this.
Right, so that's the money to invest in the Plan Commission, to think about how we grow our tax base over time, more business opportunities, more whatever. And so I just want to say that I'm committed to help and we're committed, I believe, always, of course, to the town to have the equipment up to snuff. I just wanted to report to Ken and Joe, since you're here, it's difficult to do, that I've learned.
What do we need to look at? We need to come up with some kind of a comprehensive
Yes.
plan of what needs to be replaced, when
important.
it needs to be replaced, what's its expected life expectancy that it still has, is it past its life expectancy, and then come up with an actual figure.
And with
that
limited
gives us something
funds, we need to prioritize too.
Right, so we have to know what it is that's broken, what it is that needs fixed most, first, second, third, prioritize it down the list, and what is the method we're going to use to come up with a comprehensive list like that? I mean, a committee, is that what we need to do, put together a committee that will go out and then maybe solicit some.
Well, I think Bob's suggestion is some kind of finance committee to look at.
Yeah.
Well, you're almost talking about two different things. One is a committee or a person to determine what your needs are. Another is how do you fund that?
Right.
I mean, they're related, but those are kind of two different topics.
We don't even know we know that we have a lot of need, but we don't know exactly what it is and how to target those funds.
But Joe,
and we need to have a target.
Did you come up with a list? Didn't you have a list or something that you were talking about, that things that needed to be done?
Yeah, I've addressed that with Jim.
Okay.
So you have like a priority list.
So Joe is talking about, Ken is talking about it, but I think we have to demand as a council to do what Mike is suggesting is we must have and Jim is suggesting, a prioritized list immediately. Because there are funds, I think Jim's been working on thinking about it, and Bob is suggesting some areas where we can attack the problem, but to me, it's one of the most, get the water fixed, we've been working on, right? Sewage, there's a lot of things we work on as a town, but it's time now for the maintenance. Infrastructure of our town to be worked on as well. And it's not just capital equipment, it's the buildings.
Yes, buildings, yes.
And because we see what happens with the buildings.
We need to move forward as quickly.
And I understand how difficult it is now, a little bit more than I did before. It's difficult, but we can't boot it down.
Unfortunately, we have limited funds.
3 Monty.
Yeah, so that's all. Just commitment. I'll be glad to be that person, or whomever you want to assign to work to create with the team those priority lists, unless Mike, you want to do that as part of your role.
I can help with that too. I can work with Ken on some of that. We can put together some, we need to find out some dollar figures on what it's going to cost to replace some of this equipment. Does it need replaced? Does it just need repaired? And then make that list up, and then we can prioritize the funding. Find the funding to prioritize.
Yeah, I was hoping that it was an effort of increasing our potential tax levy, and I realize now that that's not a possibility based on state law, right? So that was my hope, was that we would be able to
just raise the taxes.
Just raise the taxes. You got me on film for that. No,
he
doesn't.
Got her on film. She's not even talking.
Yeah, he's got my voice. So.
Yeah. He isn't in the camera. I don't think he hears what's going on.
This and I'll talk.
So I think as far as the equipment goes, I think that falls under Ken and Mike.
Yep.
And for them to come up with something there. But looking at the finance part of it, I mean, obviously Sherry has to be involved. If you want to be involved, I would be glad to do that as well. So
it's a priority, so whatever you think resources need to be put on it.
Well, it'd be nice if all of us could do it, but we can't all work together.
I got it.
At one time, unless we have special meetings.
So that was that topic, just to address it as a priority, and I appreciate the commitment.
Once we do come up with some priorities, and with that comprehensive list of things that need to be done, I suppose could we have a special meeting at some point like that?
I think so.
And go over some of those things, and then that would give guidance to the finance side on how to make it happen.
Sure, great.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. We might make 2 hours.
We're pushing it now.
Yeah.
Jim King, questions on the town's burn ordinance. You brought this up?
Yeah, what I did, this is a multifaceted issue. So just recently there was a situation in town where a fire was started at I think 1 a.m. either Friday night or Thursday night or sometime in that time frame, where according to a witness the flames were higher than the house. And so 911 was called, and the 911 I think dispatched police and fire. And by I think the time they got there, the material that was burning had burned down, was still burning, but had burned down. There had to have been some accelerant used on it, in my opinion, or...
I'm really behind the scenes. I was raising out of state at the time, so the guys did a good job. They got the fire took care of.
Right. But then there was issues afterwards that occurred.
It's been an ongoing issue that I addressed.
And so my point was not to address that issue. It was just to illustrate that that is an issue that is occurring in town, and it's that issue itself needs to be managed. But broadly speaking, there are ordinances in town that we have an ordinance for burning that we do not enforce, or we don't notice that it's happening in a way that we can enforce it. And so, for example, did we all know that you only can burn in daylight? Can't burn at night?
That's state law unless it's a special occasion. You're not supposed to start a fire after dark.
So,
your relevant code sections, it's all stemmed from an ordinance, but the code sections that deal with your open burning are basically 93.26 through 93.28 of your code. And of course, it starts out with the prohibition, there shall be no open burning. period. And then it does give into some exemptions, and then for those that are allowed to be in as an exemption, it gives the parameters of how they're to be handled, as you know. And then there are a couple, most of which would not be relevant, that are variances that they can only have if they have prior approval of the fire chief, which I think maybe we then later added by town council, so.
There's also ordinance 50.07 that says it's unlawful to burn garbage anywhere in town.
Yeah.
And we know that occurs, or at least I know that occurs, I shouldn't say we. And the fines are really crazy high for enforcing this. It's just your general fine for, that it refers to. And so, I don't know how we handle these types of things, and there are people that are complaining.
Typically, if it's a nuisance fire, which is what state code says, any nuisance fire will be extinguished. That means if it's bothering a neighbor, smoke's getting in their house, sits falling in their car, it's just a nuisance fire. And we do extinguish them, regardless of what they're burning. Typically, if it's not causing any problem, it's all natural wood, then we let them burn that. We let them continue. As long as they're standing by the fire, they don't leave it unattended.
But you guys then, if it is something that was in violation, you don't take that next step of enforcement?
No, we don't do enforcement.
Police or
Right.
council, or if I'm directed, I can do it, but I need to be directed.
Yeah, it's, we just put it out and leave it at that. Ask them not to start back up, at least about that time. If it's bothering a neighbor, we say, don't burn smoke going toward this neighbor's house. You know, even if it's natural wood. Campfire really shouldn't be over 3 feet in circumference. If they're having a campfire inside their house, if it's burning 10 feet in the air, that's not a campfire.
May I address ordinances in general? I wanted, when I first bought the house, I wanted to know an ordinance, and I had to go to the library to look it up. Is there any way online where people are aware of ordinances? Because that's the only place that I was able to find them. Is there any way that online people can easily more access the ordinances?
Is our code on the website?
No. I don't know. They're not easily accessible.
Do that.
That would
And again,
be a good idea.
don't look under the Cambridge City Town Code. It starts as an ordinance, but then if it's something that is talking about rules and regulations, then all those ordinances get codified in the town code. And so that's what is the easiest for people to look up under is the town code, because it's departmentalized into sections as far as burning, land use, administrative, etc. And so that is what I would recommend to have better access for, is to, I think there maybe is one people come here to ask to see the town code.
Oh, yeah, and then I took the book up to the library just because people were
But you
saying.
when this was done, didn't we have a disc for that too?
We do.
And so
It's a drive, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
and
drive.
so that drive could potentially maybe put a link on your website that they could get to that. I know the city of Richmond does that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, I'd like to see that the town adopt an ordinance where they had to come to the town, the council, and request a burn permit. If they got a lot of stuff, even if it's natural, they want to burn their property, kind of get a permit. That way we know when it's going to happen.
It already says that. They
Yeah.
have to do that.
It's supposed to be only with if it's burning of refuse consisting of material that's from a natural disaster. Natural growth derived from a clearing operation, including removal of natural growth for change of use of land. That has to, right now, approved by the fire chief, which, did we amend that?
That should be the council, I believe. That shouldn't be
Council.
one person's decision.
Well, if we haven't, then we can do that.
And I told you wrong, no, we don't have one. It was Cecil that gave me the drive on the one project, our master plan.
Of the comp
That's the
plan.
only one, so we do not have one
We haven't, we were given a disc when we were doing this code.
for the
And I'd like-
latest code. Okay, I'll look and see, but maybe it's in the safe.
Jim, I sense though your real question is enforcement, right? How do we enforce?
Yeah, what's the mechanism to turn on the enforcement?
It's just, the town has a history of fire. Now, granted, we haven't seen a big building burn down in a while, but because it has been a while, maybe statistically it may happen again someday, but fire, I was noticing a house in town, I won't say where the person that had the fire melted the side of their garage siding. How much longer would that have taken to get up into the eaves? And the houses that are next to it are within 2 feet. So I think there's an awareness issue, and I don't know how we, it's either through enforcement or, as Bob's suggesting, it's at least awareness of the ordinances. And maybe somehow we talk about it in like letters to the editor or whatever, I don't know. Somehow we have to let people know they can't do A, B, and C. Because it's wrong. It's not that it's because we just want to enforce an ordinance. It's actually wrong to burn things that make people ill. Or imagine people burning poison ivy. That would affect at least a third of the population with bad poison ivy issues. And people just don't think about it that way. Maybe we need to help people think about it. So I needed to understand a little bit more about the ordinance. And then, because I'm helping a couple, actually about 12 property owners, try to understand what's happening with people burning around them.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And so, as you say, maybe some people will do it out of ignorance. They don't know that it's not allowed. But at a minimum, they need to be notified.
So how do we enforce it? Is that dependent on the fire department, the police department, the fire?
We're not authorized to do fines. That goes back to enforcement to the police department. We do the physical work, we put out the fire. And like I said, anytime it's causing anybody, if you call and say, the smoke is bothering me, that's a nuisance fire, we're always gonna put that fire out. No matter what they're burning, well, you can't go in their house and put their fireplace out. But if it's an outside fire, if it's somebody burning outside and it's creating anything where it's a nuisance, smoke, anything like that, go in somebody's house, then we put that fire out.
Okay, great.
And that's state law.
You're gonna say?
The code really doesn't say who's the enforcement of it. It just shows the penalty, which is referred to 1099, I think is what it is, Bob, is that correct? Which is very vague on what the penalty actually is.
I saw that too.
It's $0 to $2,500 or something like that, but.
No, but as far as enforcement of any town code provision, I mean, as far as being cited for that, generally is within a police
It
department.
could be, but the issue we've had in the past is normally we don't get dispatched to fire calls. It's very rare that we would ever get dispatched to a fire call in Cambridge City.
But you
I think, and he can attest to that.
You were this last week though, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying it never
rare.
happens, but it's very, very rare.
Well, it's good that you were, it's because of
But
some other things that
if I have
happened.
an incident with an owner, I call law enforcement. It's not my job to argue with a homeowner.
Well,
I call these guys take care of it.
His fire that he called, we both ended up there and they booked him to put it out. Well, the homeowner put it out, but, so we look back like the last 3 months and we've only been dispatched twice to fire calls and they're both at the same residence. One was just over the weekend, one was about 3 weeks
So
ago.
that was the same one.
Yeah, so.
From a very, in your defense, from a very technical standpoint, any member of the town council can impose a fine. If you believe somebody has committed a violation of any of your town code provisions, you could impose it. You could write them the ticket. You could do that. Now, not many communities do that. Some want to be police people do it, but you could do it.
If I get in trouble, I call down.
The other one of the other issues with this is, if a council member or the fire department goes there and they warn this person, they don't relay that to us, and then we get called later, our procedure is verbal warning, written warning, then fine. Generally, the first two take care of it, but if I don't know that you've already warned them twice, then we're starting over.
Yeah.
So you do always get warnings in the first time?
Yeah, unless it's just something crazy, but, most of the time it's just somebody burns,
And I haven't taken any of those. Didn't think I was going to, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't, but, okay, thank you for that.
So, I mean, it is what it is, but.
But I think people are asking for help, and these are citizens of our town, so I've got to figure out, I was just trying to figure out what to do.
And we probably ought to have a procedure in place so that it's consistent, so that one council person doesn't find somebody immediately, another one gives them verbal, then written warning, and whatever. So I think something just needs to be coordinated so they can have uniform enforcement.
In some areas, it looks like this may escalate if we don't do something.
I don't think we have a lot of repeat offenders, other than the one that's just recently come up, and that's an issue, but.
Most of the time, we tell people they can't do something, they don't do it.
Most of the time.
Okay.
Now, the place you're talking about is running a business out of that yard.
Which is another issue.
So if that were eliminated, then maybe that would take care of the problem, but, he's cutting wood, splitting wood, and selling it. And that's, so he's always got piles of wood in his yard.
Okay, so I think
he is a place that I have sent letters to.
Yeah, we talked about it.
And I don't know if the homeowners ever actually got those letters. You know, they're always signed,
Don't say who.
Yeah, don't.
they're signed by one person. He always says, he's my cousin or something, I'll get it to him. I'll make sure he gets it. I don't,
So the guy
didn't know
that's
that.
causing all the
And-
trouble, yeah.
and in the one letter, I told them that, you know, that property is in a residential area, you cannot, and it appears that you are running a business, you cannot run a business at that property.
He doesn't run a business, he told me that.
I put that in the letter.
If
When was
that
the
takes
letter?
place gets going,
When did
we're
you
gonna
send
lose
it?
property,
Did
because
you
it's
send it
just,
out
as much as
recently?
piled up there, we're gonna lose
Is it time
property.
for a
Look and
fine?
see.
Is it time for
No,
a
it
fine?
lives just
It's
to the
probably,
west.
that letter is probably up
She's
for.
revered.
Okay.
You know, anyway, all right, thank you, that's all I need. I'll talk to
Okay,
the team
let me know
members
where we need to
here.
go.
We'll help things out. Thank you for the education. Over to you, Jim.
Back to you,
Mom H
Jim.
now.
Glad you can be educated, Jim.
Yeah. With a switch or whatever, keep going.
All right, moving on, approval to receive a donation of $915 for the fire department's golf alley.
That's total, there's several here that equal the 915 if you want. Do they need to do each one, Bob, or can we do one lump sum of 915? Because they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think you do it together.
Okay, $915. It was for their golf tournament.
I'll make a motion, we accept the $915 for the golf outing, fire department's golf outing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the receipt of $915 in donations from the fire department's golf alley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And then we have an approval to receive $1,115 from H&S Timber for a tree that fell during the storm.
This one, Ken gave me the check, so I'm not, you better talk
And
about it.
Justin's company was taking care of the trees that came down the park. He came to me and said, you know, that one over here.
It was this one right here.
It's
This big
over
oak.
here.
Big oak tree.
That big
And
one.
that oak tree, he said, there's a good log in there. He says, I hate to see it cut up for firewood. He says, if you want, he says, I know a timber guy. He got a hold of him, he came and looked at it, and he bought the log for that
So we got the check.
money.
Wow.
So that's how we did it with that.
Move to approve the reception of the
Thanks.
$1,115 check from H&S Timber.
Second. I have a motion and a second to accept the check for $1,115 for the log from the storm. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now Bob's favorite subject, 5 new funds.
Oh, boy.
This has been a terrible
That's
nightmare.
exciting.
What is our new ordinance number for this?
This one is gonna be, let me find my book, 6.
And you did copy and make.
I did, everybody got a copy.
Well, as you can maybe tell from this, the State Board of Accounts told Sherry as we were working on this year's budget that these various funds that we put the money in general really should have their own separate fund account, which means we have to submit separate forms for each of them, and it's a whole different story. So we first have to create the fund. So we are creating new funds entitled the K-9 Fund, the Park Donation Fund, Entertainment Venue Donation Fund, Opioid Restricted Fund, and Opioid Unrestricted Fund. And as those titles might imply, it's where the money is going for people that gave the money to donate for the park, people that gave money to donate for the entertainment venue, it's the fire department, people that give money for the K-9, and then those monies that we get from a different governmental agency for both restricted and unrestricted opioid from that settlement. So all this does is create those funds to keep the State Board of Accounts happy and to give Sherry something else to do.
So what we need is a motion to
Motion to
adopt.
adopt ordinance 6-2024, and here's the original ordinance, your guy's signature. If you do so adopt that, and just please sign under the section that says in favor, not in favor.
I'll make a motion, we adopt ordinance number 6, 2024.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 6, 2024 regarding special funds for the town. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Bob.
Now individual reports, town marshal.
I don't have anything else.
Bless you.
Oh,
We don't hear.
we do have one thing, as far as that goes, Richard, we did get a letter from a citizen in town about the response by the police department and the fire department, thanking them for their response. And I think all the council members got a copy of that. Did you get a copy of it as well?
Yep. I did not give one to Jeff, but I will. I'm gonna give you that. There you go. Yes.
Which is very nice to see. They were very complimentary on the response, and I would echo that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Richard, you were on scene constantly, Jeff, you were on scene constantly, thank you.
As well as the other town
Yeah,
employees.
town employees.
I was real pleased to see the council members out, checking on us.
All hands on deck.
Yeah. Hasn't always been that way, so I'm really pleased to see that.
Really,
It's nice that you have support.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
I left for that.
All right, and Jeff, do you have anything else?
No, please, I think we're good right now.
Okay. Ken?
Nothing really big, just wanted
Make
to
it quick.
inform you guys. I am working on getting some prices on like a snow blade for the Kubota and that, and also for our snow plow for the red dump truck. So that could be used for snow removal in the winter if needs to be. And then I'm also going to be getting a price because we're talking about it that, we're looking, going to be putting the fuel tanks down at the Miller building.
Sorry,
Well,
we're listening.
there's no generator there. So, if the electric's out for 3-4 days,
We're gonna generator.
there's nobody going to be able to pump gas.
Yeah, the generator was actually something I left off the list today.
So that-
All know about.
That is something I'm going to be getting a price on, to what it would take to get a generator.
Generator.
Yeah, well, the generator
Automatically
system.
kick on.
I think it cost me about $14,000.
And
Switch them on.
And even on with not just the fuel tanks, if the electric's out, if there's a piece of equipment in that building we need, we can't get the doors open.
Doors won't open.
Yeah, the generators, and you would only tie them to certain circuits, so you wouldn't have to try to run the whole building.
Well, the generator, the smallest generator you got's gonna run that whole building.
Yeah,
No, that's true.
and then some.
And then some, yeah. They're great. The ours comes on every Monday night at 7, tests itself.
But given what happened a few weeks ago, and given what, there's supposedly, the relief this winter is gonna be colder and snowier.
Yeah, like I said,
But
like I
we don't
said,
know.
with putting those fuel tanks in, if something happened, the electric's out for 4 days.
So how much is a generator? How much was that?
I think altogether with switch box and everything, I think about 14,000 total.
So you're getting quotes, you say?
I'm gonna be getting some prices on that. I'd already talked to John Turpin, and when he gets back from vacation, he's gonna get with me and I'll get a price from him.
Seth,
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop and talk to Seth about it.
You can try to get a price on a hydraulic ram for the other snowplow that's bent too.
Yeah.
also, you can get V's or small inserts for the trucks. Have we ever had those that for salt?
Oh, like a V-box
The
spreader?
V-box, yeah. I looked at pricing on those, I put those on
And
the list
that
today.
is something, with some of this getting newer equipment is what we want to get to is,
Okay.
because they're a lot easier to maintain and a lot more efficient than having to raise your bed up every time you need salt at the back end of a truck.
Okay, cool, good. See all this talk and excitement around it? Yeah. Products.
Wow.
One thing I have left is on the Phase 2 water project, the financing that will ultimately not be part of the grant will have to be coming from bonds. Part of the bonds are in our last grant application, they required a letter from bond counsel. So we have to retain bond counsel. Ice Miller is who served as bond counsel on Phase 1. They made the most sense to be reached out for Phase 2, especially since we were only given about 24 hours to come up with that letter. So Ice Miller really jumped the hoops and got us that letter. They now just want us to do an engagement letter with them, and so I highly recommend to accept them. And for any of you that don't know, bond counsel is that's a very specialized specialty that lawyers do that do nothing else but bond work. And so that's why somebody like your town attorney cannot do that, so you'd have to retain them for projects like this. There are two major firms, and Ice Miller is one of them from Indianapolis that does that. Since they did Phase 1 and were able to jump on this, I highly recommend it. Their hourly rate, of course, exceeds anything I do. But if you so desire to give Jim the authorization to sign off on this engagement letter, it would be very helpful, and I think prudent for us to give that to Ice Miller now, since they did their job quickly. Now, that was just the very preliminary part. Their main job will be as we get the bond financing itself. And Jim, and they are paid out of the bond proceeds, so it's nothing that you're gonna have to be paying on a monthly basis, et cetera. And so they know that, they'll be paid at the end from the bond proceeds, but do want this engagement letter for their records.
Is that right? On board with that?
Do we need a motion to sign
Yeah,
the
motion
engagement letter?
to engage Ice Miller as bond counsel for phase 2 of the water project.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve Ice Miller for bond counsel for phase 2. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Is that all you had, Bob?
That's all I have.
All right. Anybody, council members?
I'll be quick, Sherry. No, I attended State Fair Band Day, and I saw the Lincoln High School marching band, and their numbers were few, but I was really proud of those kids. They did a really nice show. They had less numbers than we did 55 years ago, but they did a very nice job, and I really admire them for devoting their summer to marching and going to the band day. So it was fun to watch. I was proud of them.
Good.
I watched them and listened to them practice.
Yeah.
I can hear it all in my house.
Every day I could see them when I was walking, they were practicing.
They
They were really giving
really worked hard.
it their all.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, what time?
Hey, we almost made 2 hours.
Woo.